Salve pessoal, Bronco na área para mais um vídeo aqui no canal, mais um videozinho do Assassinato do Expresso Oriente. Então já vai se aconchegando e se recebam as boas-vindas do Hércules Poirot, o bigode maravilhoso dele e eu, tá? Para a parte 8 do Assassinato no Expresso do Oriente, tá? Então estamos chegando perto do fim do jogo, tá? Então, caso você não tenha visto a parte anterior, a parte 7, que teve muitas revelações, muitas coisas acontecendo no jogo, tá? O card tá aí em cima, o link tá na descrição. Caso você não tenha visto nenhuma parte, caiu aqui de paraquedas, nem sabe o que tá acontecendo, nem sabia que esse jogo existia, que porra é essa, jogo de Assassinato do Expresso do Oriente, nunca vi falar desse jogo na minha vida, nem sabia que o livro tinha um jogo, tá? Então, toda a playlist tá na descrição e também no card aqui em cima, tá? Então, caso você tenha interesse de assistir toda a campanha, né, organizada, parte a parte, bonitinho, na ordem, tudo aí está na descrição e também no card, beleza? Então vamos lá. Antes de mais nada, já deixa aquele like, se você não deixou o like, tá? Deixa o like aí pra fortalecer nós. Já se inscreve no canal se você não for inscrito, principalmente você que caiu de paraquedas. Você, estou falando com você. Se inscreve aí, pô, ajuda nós, tá? Eu ainda estou em busca das 3.000 horas assistidas, então cada minuto que você assiste vai me ajudar bastante, tá? A monetizar o canal. Também ativa as notificações para você ver os próximos vídeos, tá? Se tiver outra parte aqui do Expresso do Oriente, para você ver a próxima parte e de outros jogos que eu estou trazendo também, beleza? E também deixa aí no comentário o que você acha do jogo, o que você achou do jogo, quem você acha que matou o Ratchet, né, o cassete, beleza? Se você já viu o filme, já leu o livro, provavelmente você já sabe quem é o assassino, né? Então, mas não sei se eles vão mudar isso no jogo, né? Pra quem nunca viu nenhuma parte, né? Os desenvolvedores do jogo falaram que ia surpreender até quem leu o livro, assistiu os filmes, então não dá pra saber o que vai acontecer. Por enquanto, até agora, a ordem dos fatos tá bem igualzinho, né, ao filme, né? E acredito que é o livro, né? Eu nunca li o livro, só vi o filme. Então, bagageiro. Então vamos ver, né? Nem lembro como é que aperta os botões aqui, velho. Lembrei. É o E. Tá, temos que interrogar aqui o senhor Michel. Caso o vídeo chegue próximo dos 30 minutos a 40 minutos e não tenha encerrado ainda, né, essa parte, eu vou parar o vídeo e vou fazer a parte seguinte para ver se vai finalizar o vídeo ou não. Porque eu não sei quanto tempo falta de jogo, porque aqui do lado está aqui, ó. Conclua a investigação. A investigação parece estar chegando ao fim. Então, esse chegando ao fim não dá pra saber quanto tempo é. Se é mais 2 horas, se é mais 3 horas, se é mais 1 hora, se é 20 minutos, não tem como saber. Então, se der uns 30, 40 minutos e ainda não tiver chegado ao fim do jogo, eu vou cortar, né? Vou finalizar o vídeo e vamos deixar o final pra próxima parte, tá? E assim por diante até chegar ao final do jogo, né? Pra não ficar um vídeo de 1 hora e a parte final ser 10 minutos, tá? Tentar equilibrar ao máximo as últimas partes do jogo, tá? Então a gente tem que interrogar o senhor Michel e a senhora Smith, tá? A senhora Smith tá onde? Lounge. Não! Porra. Tá no lounge. Onde que é o lounge? Eu não sei o que é lounge. Que é isso? A porta aqui tá aberta?
I have nothing to ask them at the moment. I should leave them alone.
Achei que ela era a senhora Smith. Quem é a senhora Smith? Não lembro quem é a senhora Smith. Quem é a senhora Smith? Quem é a senhora Smith? Tá, é a criada da princesa Dragomiroff, né? Tá no lounge. Onde que é o lounge? Eu não sei onde que é o que é o lounge, velho. Vamos seguir. Bar lounge, tá. Beleza, tá aqui ela. Vamos falar com ela.
Good evening, Fräulein Schmidt. May I disturb you for a moment?
You asked so politely, mein Herr, but I do not think I have a choice.
Tipo, como abordar? Você drogou! Ordinária! Marginal! Ou, a senhora lá que acordou. Foda-se. A abordagem totalmente diferente, né?
Ah, yes, I'm glad to hear that. I was worried about her. Did she tell you what had happened to her?
A senhora Locke viu você drogado, sendo que ela não sabe ninguém. Eu vou botar ele numa xícara, velho.
Unfortunately, she doesn't remember much, but we found a residue of a sleeping pill in her cup.
Eu não sei se tinha que abordar, fazer uma abordagem mais direta, né?
Alone together in your room when she drank it. Who else but you could have drank
Ok.
it?
Mesmo com essa
Point
abordagem.
out, I do not make the tea on this train. You should question the conductor or the kitchen staff.
Mademoiselle Locke could have died. Whoever drugged her must not feel any empathy for their fellow human beings, given the dose that Mademoiselle Locke ingested. She was close to death.
Oh my God. What
E
should I
a-
do?
a-
I
a
didn't
Revo?
want to hurt her. Just have her sleep for a few hours while we had time.
We? Time for what? Time for what, Madame Schmidt?
You think I feel nothing? Nothing?
Entregou a bandeja, velho.
That poor little girl. Fräulein Schmidt is somehow connected to the Armstrong.
Entregou a bandeja inteira, velho. Entre a senhora Smith e o caso Armstrong. Cozinheira?
I'm right again. That happens to me a lot. Fräulein Schmidt, I have a certain reputation for sniffing out.
I am not a murderer.
Forgive me, but I was going to say brilliant chefs. You
Ele
were
meteu
the
essa.
Armstrong family's cook, were you not?
Yes. I was the cook of that lovely, lovely family. I'm sorry, but I must ask you to give me some time to collect myself. It wasn't supposed to be like this, my darling, my poor darling child.
I will give you that time, Fräulein. You have given me much more in exchange. I must check in with my other suspects.
Entregou a bandeja inteirinha, velho. Tá, eu tenho que interrogar o Michel, né? Ele tá no bagageiro, né? Aposentos, vagão, bagageiro. Vagão, bagageiro é pra que lado? Eu acho que pra cá é a cozinha, né? Bagageiro eu acho que é pro outro lado. Eu acho que o vagão bagageiro é pro outro lado, velho. Aqui eu acho que é a cozinha, velho. Bom, eu acredito que realmente seja próximo do final do jogo, né? Porque a mulher já entregou toda a paçoca aí, velho. Já entregou a mandioca? Aqui acho que é o meu quarto, né? Eu sempre esqueço qual é o meu quarto, velho. Segunda classe, acho que o bagageiro é pro outro lado mesmo, pra cá. O maluco tá olhando a neve aí há meia hora, olhando pra neve, por nada. E aí, meu tio, tranquilo, tranquilidade? É, né?
Are
Neve.
you familiar with the concept of entropy, Monsieur McQueen?
Oh, Mr. Poirot, I didn't see you. Entropy? Randomness in a system or something?
Yes, unpredictability. Even the best laid plans can go astray, thanks to something as simple as...
An unexpected passenger?
Perhaps, or snow.
Mais um que entregou a paçoca, falou. Tá todo mundo entregando a paçoca. E aí, doutor? Tranquilidades. Não quero falar contigo agora não, valeu. Uai, gente, onde que é a porra do bagageiro, cara? Ué. Onde que é o bagageiro, mano? Ai, meu Deus. Pra um ótimo detetive, tô mais perdido que cego de tiroteio, velho. Estou aqui. 300. Eu acho que é lá no final mesmo, depois do restaurante. Tá vindo pro lugar certo. Oh, shit. Bar Lounge. Ok. E aí, meu querido? Valeu, meu querido. O que é isso aqui? Tá, essa aqui é a mulherzinha que enche a cara e joga baralho, que é tipo pro bigodudo. Restaurante. Ah, porra, meu irmão, tu só tá no restaurante, hein? Caralho, não sai do restaurante, velho. Ali é o cozinheiro chato. Depósito. E bagageiro. Ah, é verdade, a gente tinha vindo aqui, né? É. Eu acho que tá no quarto dele, né? Do lado do bagageiro. Deve ser aqui fora. Aqui. E aí, senhor Michel, nem bate... Eita, porra!
Good evening, Michel. Am I bothering you? You seem stressed.
With everything that's going on, I must admit it's
Olha
difficult
esse,
to
velho.
be relaxed.
Of course, I understand. Especially since we know that Detective Locke's tea was drugged before it was served to her.
Detective?
Esse
Come
aqui?
now, Michel. Surely you would have taken the opportunity to search her things and found her badge. Luckily, she woke up and was finally able to tell us her story.
Otaru boiled the water, Jean made the tea. I just brought it. Sir, it could have been any of the staff.
Your defense is to accuse others.
Xiii, a fotinha da empregada que
You
se
have a
matou.
network connection?
No, unfortunately. It's just an automatic reminder to pay my rent. I always forget and my landlord complains.
You, Michel, had to be involved.
Mano, tá todo mundo envolvido, velho.
Drugged tea, his post at the end of the hall, and now I know why I know more than one of those people on the screen.
Quem é a pessoa na esquerda? É ele. É o... Qual é o nome dele? É Pierre, né?
Fantastic.
É Michel, isso. A pessoa no meio é a... Suzane, né?
Great.
E a direita é o detetive que tá aí. Cyrus Hardman.
Nice. Et voilà. You are the father of Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's nanny.
Okay.
My condolences on the death of your wife.
What? But my wife...
Enough lies. Suzanne does not bear your name.
No. Suzanne's mother and I were divorced. Suzanne kept her mother's name.
My most sincere condolences, Monsieur Michel, on the deaths of Suzanne and your wife.
This job, I loved them, but I was never there for them. Then, a year after the divorce, Solange became ill. Suzanne took her to this special hospital in the US. Got that job as Daisy's nanny.
I understand your pain, and the reason that led you to drug Detective Locke.
We really can't hide anything from you, can
Não
we?
dá, irmão.
Many
Só
have been
aceita.
foolish enough to try and keep the truth from Hercule Poirot.
Yes, I admit, I drugged the tea. But it was only to keep her quiet, until I could... But she reacted so much to the sleeping
A
pills.
nós.
She
Ficar sempre
was
entrega a
lucky,
paçoca.
as are you, that she didn't die. To be frank, there was one more thing that puzzled me, but I think I understand now.
Porra, não sei, velho. Acho que tá futuro genro, velho. Não sei, porque ele, o Hardman é muito mais novo que ele. Ele gosta de um carinha mais novo, é isso?
Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé.
I have the impression
acertei.
my whole life to you is an open book. Yes, Cyrus was my daughter's fiancé. I almost consider Cyrus as my own son.
Que barulho é esse? De
Of
porta?
course, much more is clear now. I have been patient long enough. It is time to go and see what all the commotion is next door.
Ok.
Monsieur Hardman, excellent. The gods who watch over detectives must have.
Ele foi pouco sutil, ele foi muito sutil, né? Pouco barulho.
Watch over me. I'm a detective too. I was talking to Michelle about a leaky faucet, and I wanted to go out, but you showed up.
No need to invent some preposterous story.
But really,
Michelle has told me everything. You are the fiancé of Suzanne Moreau, his daughter.
Oh, I see.
I see.
Not a big surprise to you.
No. Suzanne was the only woman I ever loved. And I failed her. We got into a spat. It was nothing, but I was too proud to apologize. We weren't speaking at all. Suzanne never really cared for that guy, Noah. She would have forgiven me. If only. If only.
If only. A common refrain between lovers who quarrel. Obviously, Pierre Michel and Fräulein Schmidt both drugged Detective Locke's tea, causing the overdose. No one?
Ok, informe a senhora Locke e o Book. Então vamos lá pro restaurante, né? Onde o Book sempre está.
Trouble waking up. Time to report my findings to her and Book.
Valeu aí, rapaziada. Tamo junto, viu? Fé com fé pra vocês. Meu irmão, não tem fofoqueiro maior do que o Poirot, filho. Não tem.
Mademoiselle Locke, I know who drugged you. Fräulein Schmidt.
Acabou sendo os dois.
Dr. Pierre Michel. Both admitted putting sleeping pills into your tea. This explains your overdose.
É verdade, cada um botou um pouco, né? Aí aumentou a dose.
Drugged a passenger? On behalf of the company, I offer my apologies to you, Mademoiselle Locke. Michel will answer for this outrage.
Both of them? I was pretty sure about Fräulein Schmidt, but I admit that I did not suspect the conductor.
Ah, se cada um, vou drogar aqui. Aí os dois botaram droga, filho. Aí precisa dar uma overdose, velho.
I have uncovered multiple connections with the Armstrong case. Pierre Michel is the father of Suzanne Moreau, little Daisy's nanny, and Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé. As for Hildegard Schmidt,
todo mundo envolvido. É isso.
Of the Armstrong family. What a coincidence, don't you?
Que foco é esse, meu Deus?
It's incredible. What are the odds that so many people linked to that tragic affair ended up on the same train?
About the same as you winning the lottery,
Zero.
my friend.
I wasn't the officer who interviewed Fräulein Schmidt
.00001.
then, so she couldn't recognize me here on the train. How could they know who I was?
There were other passengers who might have. Or she may have seen you when you visited the Armstrong home. It is now clear to me that some of the clues
O foco é muito bom no bigode.
were staged for
Olha que bigode
my
bonito,
benefit.
velho. Que bigode maravilhoso. Meu Deus. Yeah.
That was easy.
That was easy.
Some clues and information collected so far could lead to a hypothesis. The murderer boarded the train in Vinkovsky, killed Ratchet, and then left the train immediately.
How did you come to that possibility?
Monsieur Hardman told me about a short man with a high-pitched voice who threatened Ratchet. Imagine for a moment that this man, wearing a wagon-lit conductor's jacket, killed him while Michel was on the platform at Vinkovsky. This murderer then hid the conductor's jacket in Detective Locke's room, then fled before the train left.
Yeah.
Why choose Detective Locke's room?
Why, indeed. Let me re-explain from the beginning.
Ok, mais explicações. A pista falsa. Tá. Aqui. É isso. O Michel sai da plataforma. O assassino embarca. O assassino mata. Deixa a faca. O assassino sai. Será que é isso?
This is wrong, but I'm never far from the truth.
Será que é o contrário aqui? É. Foi quase. Era o que eu ia botar antes, mas...
cells did not let me down.
Mon Dieu! Oui! That must be it! Everything fits so well!
It fits too well, my friend.
Muito conveniente.
Other clues lead to a second hypothesis, much more plausible.
Vários assassinatos estão ligados ao caso Armstrong.
That's the right answer.
So, we have multiple murderers, all related to the Armstrong case. The murderer from Winkowski was a fabrication to turn suspicion away from those on the trail. They expected the investigation to be led by some small-town official who could easily be misled.
Mas ninguém engana o bigode.
Mr. Poirot?
Detective Locke, forgive me. You are an obvious exception. You tracked Ratchet with the tenacity of a bloodhound. Unfortunately for the killers, they not only had you...
Ele contornou o que ele falou.
And I say this with all modesty.
Toda modéstia, diga-se de passagem.
Dropped into the midst of their
Com toda modéstia, o maior detetive do mundo.
Murderers? Multiple detectives? Poirot, please take pity on me. Who is linked to this case and who is not?
My poor friend, I have gone speeding out of the station without you. I will continue.
Quando você tá indo, tô voltando, é foda. Quais são as 9 pessoas que estão ligadas ao caso Armstrong? Natália Foscarelli, que era motorista, o Hardman, que era o marido da empregada, o McQueen, ele era filho do promotor, né, da polícia, que foi encarregado, não conseguiu resolver o caso, se aposentou. O Michel era o pai da empregada. A Helena era irmã da mãe da Daisy. Essa aqui era a cozinheira. E foram quantos? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Se eu não me engano... Mas quem? Mastermentava, velho? Não lembro. A Joana Locke também, né?
Think, Poirot. That is not a good
Tá, o Hardman não era mesmo. Mas quem é aqui? O Ratchet... porque eu pensei que seria pessoas que mataram, não que morreu, porra. Chegaram os 9 que mataram.
Michel, Monsieur Hardman and Monsieur McQueen are all linked to the Armstrong case. I also know that Sonia Armstrong's sister and godmother, Countess Andreni and Princess Dragomirov, are on this train. And finally, Detective Locke discovered that Mr. Foscarelli was the Armstrong chauffeur.
If we add Detective Locke and Ratchet, of the 12 passengers in that coach, 9 have a connection with the Armstrong case. What next, Poirot? Or should I say, who next?
It is time to summon everyone.
Everyone? Even Dr. Constantine? The train crew other
Todo mundo, meu parceiro.
Dr. Constantine, yes. I will need him. But we don't want the others as witnesses.
I will see that their duties keep them occupied elsewhere.
Excellent. I have always thought this moment in a case is much like Rodin unveiling the thinker before a captivated audience. A work of art. Have you not felt that way, Detective?
No, Mr. Poirot. I'm happy just to slap the cuffs on him.
Well, there is some artistry in that as well, I suppose.
Ela gosta de uma
Where
algema.
would you like the unveiling, Poirot?
O Poirot gosta de uma coisa mais artística. Uma pintura sem roupa no chão, né? Uma pintura, né? E a Loki é mais agressiva, é mais algema. Ai, pai do céu, velho. Vamos lá. Vá para o lounge. O lounge é no bar. Aprendi. Lounge é o bar. E aí, meu querido? Valeu, meu querido. Ok, chegamos. E aí? Vai ser a revelação já? Ele olha, todos olham para ele. Ele olha para todos. Todos pensam, caralho, mas que bigode foda.
Monsieur Book, are the train crew locked in their quarters?
Yes, they are.
Then the stage is set for the final act. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gathered you together to hear my reconstruction of the murder of Samuel Edward Ratchet, also known as Cassetti. There is not one, but two possible solutions of the crime. I shall put them both before you, and I shall ask Monsieur Book and Dr. Constantine here to judge which solution is the correct one.
Two solutions?
Mr. Poirot, I am hardly qualified.
Nevertheless, your assistance is required. Now,
todo mundo se olhou.
the facts of the case.
Esse médico aí tá na mutreta, hein?
This morning. He was last known to be alive at 12:37 a.m. last night, when he spoke to the wagon-lee conductor through the door. His watch was found to be badly dented, and it had stopped at 1:15. Dr. Constantine, who examined the body, puts the time of death as having occurred between midnight and 2 in the morning. At half an hour after midnight, as you all know,
Meu Deus, ele vai contar tudo
ran
mesmo, velho.
into a snowdrift. After that time, it was impossible for anyone to leave the train. So, here is my first theory. The enemy, as Ratchet expected, joined the train at Vinkovsky by the door left open by Captain Arbuthnot and Monsieur McQueen, who had just descended to the platform. He was equipped with a wagon-lee jacket, which he wore over his ordinary clothes, and a pass key which enabled him to gain access to Ratchet's compartment in spite of the
Muita
doors
conveniência
being
essa teoria aí, velho.
Ratchet was under the influence of a sleeping draft. This man stabbed him with great ferocity. A dozen wounds.
Só que essa teoria tem um porém, né, mano? Ele tá com um bagulho de sonífero, sendo que ele tava armado, velho. Alerta. Sabendo que ele poderia ser morto, velho.
Scared me half out of my wits.
The murderer.
Então não faz muito sentido. Ele tá tomando remédio, sendo que ele tava com medo de ser morto, velho.
Handbag in passing. Without knowing it, he lost a button of his
A pessoa teria que estar dentro do trem pra dopar ele, tá ligado? Não fora do trem.
Compartment and along the corridor. He put the uniform jacket into Detective Locke's suitcase to cast suspicion on her. And a few minutes later, dressed in his ordinary clothes, he left the train just before it started off again, using the same means for egress, the door near the dining car. That is the first hypothesis. But there's a second for that. We must examine the motive for the crime. Why was Ratchet killed?
Porra, dinheiro é sacanagem, né?
The motive is clear. Revenge, of course. Nothing was stolen. And we know that Ratchet had made
Dinheiro é foda, né? Aí a pessoa, os desenvolvedores estão de sacanagem, né?
Meticulously planned.
Pouco não, vários meses.
Since the kidnapping and death of little Daisy Armstrong, which traumatized many people close to the family.
Legal que essa hipótese que a gente escolhe, né? Na outra não tinha a escolha. Praticamente a gente fala, ó, essa hipótese aí é errada, tá? Ele só tá falando.
As did others. They became convinced the truth lay elsewhere. We now know who the real murderer of Daisy is.
Porra, é
It is clear now that Daisy's killer was Ratchet, also known as Cassetti and Michael Clark and how many other names. But of course, many of you have known this for a long time. It is obvious that the 12 stab wounds are not
É verdade, são 12
Dr.
facadas.
Constantine's analysis revealed that some stab wounds appeared to have been caused by a right-handed attacker. Others indicated the knife wielder was left-handed. Some wounds were deep, more than one fatal, yet others were not much more than mere scratches. What can explain these discrepancies?
Pessoas
This
diferentes.
leads us to an obvious conclusion. They are symbolic.
Júri nos Estados Unidos? Não, a Daisy não tinha 12 anos. Eu acho que é júri, não? Cara, essa aqui tá difícil, porque a Daisy era um bebê, mas não sei se ela tinha 12 meses. Eu não sei quantas pessoas tem. Deixa eu pesquisar aqui. Quantas pessoas tem no júri nos Estados Unidos? É, 12. É entre 6 e 12. Ah, júri federal é 12 pessoas. Cara, eu vou chutar o júri, porque a Daisy era um bebê, mas eu não sei se ela tinha 12 meses. Ai, velho, essa aqui é difícil, mano. Qual a idade da Daisy Armstrong? É, 3 anos. Então acho que é um júri.
12 stabs. 12! The same number as a trial jury in the United States. But not just a jury of 12 members condemning him to death, but 12 executioners as well. This self-appointed jury had meticulously planned for everything except
Snow.
snow. The avalanche that stopped
O cara já se entregou legal, né? Ele já tá, fudeu nós, tamo aí, infelizmente aí. Tu veio junto também nessa merda, vai se fuder, poiró. A neve também, maldita. Já tão tipo, foda-se, já entregaram tudo já. E eu nem vi o que ele falou nessa porra também. Ai, agora eu perdi o que ele falou, velho.
The conductor's jacket, found in Detective Locke's suitcase, was put there only to cast suspicion upon her.
Ok, tem as opções.
The vial of vaping liquid incriminated Captain Arbuthnot. However, he had a solid alibi confirmed by Monsieur McQueen. Impossible then to suspect him. The time on Ratchet's broken watch was deliberately set to conceal the true time of the crime.
Ok.
This woman in a red kimono does not exist. I don't know which of the passengers it was. It does not really matter. It was just a performance, a charade to introduce another possible culprit to muddy the waters. All these false leads were intended for me. But I am Poirot. I understood the truth. We have a train.
Eu adoro a humildade dele, cara. A humildade dele é contagiante.
Identify who the real culprits are. Let's start with Detective Locke.
Não. Tava sob efeito de remédios.
Planting the conductor's jacket in her suitcase was an attempt to implicate Detective Locke, but she couldn't fake her drugged condition. Dr. Constantine can testify that the drugged tea incapacitated her for hours, and she had 2 relapses. Let us move on to Monsieur McQueen. When I told him about Cassetti, he looked very.
Eu vou ter que julgar um por um,
I
velho.
managed to make the connection between him and the Armstrong case. He told me, but I thought we had. I think he meant. You thought you didn't leave any real clues linking the murder to the Armstrong kidnapping. Moreover, you insisted that Ratchet did not speak French when you knew I had heard a voice calling out in French that was supposed to be Ratchet.
Sim. O pai dele.
You took some pleasure in leaving me false clues, I think. It was quite annoying. But you told me yourself that your father was the district attorney who handled the Armstrong case.
The case haunted my father. At first, he believed Suzanne Moreau had helped her boyfriend, Noah, to kidnap Daisy, even though there were questions that went unanswered, and a young policewoman refused to let it go, continuing to find discrepancies, but never enough to reopen the official investigation.
That policewoman sits there. Her name is Joanna Locke.
Then tell him. Tell him how in the end my father believed you, how he resigned a job that he loved, racked with guilt that he may have let that monster go free.
A culpa é dela?
He died young, broken, his faith in justice
A culpa é dela?
broken. That's what Ratchet did to him.
Thank you for your honesty.
Entendi a raiva dele com ela. Ela tava tentando prender o cara, porra. Ué, não entendi não.
Now,
Ué,
I will turn to Ratchet's valet,
entendi não.
Masterman.
Tô perdido. Se o Masterman esfaqueou o Ratchet. Cara, ele não tá linkado, velho, mas eu não sei. Ai, não sei. Legal que a expressão muda lá. Se eu botar assim, ele fica puto. E se eu botar não, ele fica felizinho lá. Ih, felizinho. Ih, felicidade. Eu não sei. Ah! Ah, agora não tem como voltar atrás, velho. Ai, não sei, velho. Eu acho que não, mano. Pior que não tem como voltar, velho.
Ratchet sensed danger close to him and
Agora já
naturally
foi.
wanted to stay awake. You gave him sleeping pills without his knowledge. Once he was sound asleep, you could do what you had to do in peace.
So, I'll tell you the truth. I was Colonel Armstrong's adjutant in the war, sir. And afterwards, I was his valet in New York.
Mais
I'm
linkado
afraid I
aí.
concealed the fact this morning. It was very wrong of me, sir, but I knew how suspicious it would look.
Is that all you have to say?
That's all, sir.
Now,
Ok.
to leave no suspicious stone unturned, let us move on to Monsieur Book.
What? Me? A suspicious stone?
Não, né? A felicidade. Ê, pareceu que comeu um docinho, olha lá. Ê, felicidade. Aí sim. Oh, meu Deus. Essas pessoas são muito boas. É, conseguiu o quarto no tempo. Pra mim é a melhor justificativa do mundo. Vou matar o cara, mas vou botar o melhor detetive do mundo no trem pra investigar o caso. É sensacional, velho.
Book, my friend, of course you are not guilty. You did everything you could to get me on this train. What madness would cause you to ensure, and I
E falo com toda modéstia.
that the best detective in the world could be
Ah, imagina se não fosse modesto. Eu quero saber o que ele falaria, velho.
Most assuredly, but a murderer can wear all
amizade não quer dizer nada, meu
sorts of
amigo.
masks, including
Tem familiar que se mata,
let us
imagina amigo.
consider our ever-efficient wagon-lit conductor, Pierre Michel.
Sim, definitivamente sim.
No, that is his motive.
Ah,
I
então se eu botar a opção errada,
proof.
ele não fala, né? Ah, tá drogado esse
Your
Loki.
admission that you drugged Detective Locke
com certeza.
immediately incriminates you, but the murder could not have been possible without your very capable assistance. Your knowledge of train procedures made the murder possible, and your position in the corridor of the train allowed you to be the perfect alibi for several passengers. And your motive? Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's poor nanny, who was wrongly accused and committed suicide, was your daughter.
C'est un foiré. He got what he deserved. My poor daughter has finally been avenged.
Já foram pro caralho mesmo, já entregaram tudo, foda-se, é isso.
Let's move on now to Monsieur Hardman, one of 3 detectives on this train.
Sim. Olha a cara de puto. Não. Ah, felicidade. Ê, felicidade. Ai, pai. Ele é detetive, foda-se.
Monsieur Hardman, I think you are a real detective, but you were never hired by Ratchet. Your alibi was that you were watching the corridor to protect Ratchet, which, of course, you never did. You protected Pierre Michel. However, we just saw that his alibi doesn't hold up, so neither does yours.
I don't know about the conductor.
Being Suzanne's fiancé, you had a substantial motive to punish Ratchet. You used your detective skills, just as Detective Locke did, to hunt him down and finally avenge the death of your beloved.
That's right, Mr. Poirot. I do have some detective skills.
I never doubted it.
Ele não sabe se fica triste por ser pego ou se fica feliz por ser elogiado pelo Poirot. Ele não sabe, tá? Ele ficou em confusão ali. Sim.
Fräulein Schmidt, you told me of your remorse for drugging Detective Locke. I believe you are sincere. However,
é logo só aí olhando, só olhando, de boa, suave.
Experienced the drama from within.
Eita, mosca.
The death of Daisy, then Sonia Armstrong, who died in childbirth, and finally Suzanne and John Armstrong.
So much misfortune in that poor family. The death of this criminal is only justice.
Então que é foda, né, mano?
Um
bebê, uma criança morreu, causou todo o fuzuê na família, mano. É foda, né, velho?
Never left her compartment that night. Should I believe it?
No. Oh, meu Deus. Ei, não. Ela fica neutro quando é não. E sim é, oh, meu Deus.
Even if it seems logical, it's more complicated than that. I believe Countess Andreni.
Ué, não?
Countess Andreni is young and fit, physically quite capable of stabbing Ratchet. The problem must be somewhere else.
Tá, o que é a irmã? Não.
Countess
Ué?
Andreni. Being Sonia Armstrong's sister, you had every reason in the world to want to avenge her. But you were incapable of stabbing someone. Even after what he had done to
não conseguiu esfaquear, né? Mesmo com a raiva.
of the crime, you simply took a sleeping pill. I appreciate the irony that nearby, Detective Locke was also in a drugged sleep. When you awoke, you thought the nightmare was over.
Rudolph?
Hush, my love. Hush.
Excellent transition. I was coming to you, Count Andreni.
Ah, cara, eu acho que ele esfaquearia pela mulher dele, velho. Ele esfaquearia pela mulher dele. É, ele substituiria a Sarah Andreni. Ele substituiria. Eu vejo ele substituindo a mulher dele pra esfaquear.
Countess Andreni did not stab Ratchet. Someone had to take her place. And you, Count,
the beloved husband. I've seen how fiercely you love and protect your wife.
Enough! I would do anything for Helena. Anything. Even that.
Yes.
Mas é isso que ele tá falando, não entendi o protesto.
Monsieur Foscarelli.
Os caras protestam por umas coisas tipo, não, eu fiz o que você falou mesmo, porra, para de falar, caralho, Tá bom, foi o que eu falei, amigo, só concorda, porra, não precisa desse show. Tá puto, velho? Sim. Esse bigode aí, não me engano, esse bigode de porteiro aí, de motorista. Ele tem muito bigode de motorista, cara, não dá, velho, não dá. Ele tem muito bigode de chefe de máfia italiana, velho, não dá, não tem como, velho. Ele é italiano. Ele é italiano. É isso aí, velho. O jogo falou o que eu falei. Ele é italiano. É isso. Muito bom.
Chauffeur, and that you plan to travel on the same train at the same time as Ratchet. That is what made her decide to obtain a ticket as well. Unfortunately, she could not.
Que ótimo motivo pra assassinar alguém. Ele é italiano. Tipo, ser italiano é ser assassino agora.
Tongue, Mr. Foscarelli?
Oh, Daisy. She was the delight of the house.
Mamma mia.
And she would sit in the car and pretend to drive me.
And you, Mademoiselle Olson, a champion for the immigrants, a worthy calling.
Eu vou botar sim. Ou não. Vou botar não.
I do not think that's the right
é sim, então. Ok. Ela é reservada. É isso, você ser reservado te torna um assassino, valeu? Não pode ser reservado, tem que ir na rua, correr pelado. E é isso, mano. Se você ficar reservado na sua casa, você automaticamente é um assassino.
Mademoiselle Olson, you supported Madame Hubbard's story about her connecting door latch. A story that I later demonstrated to be impossible. So, you deliberately lied to me, and you also lied about Mademoiselle Debenham's whereabouts.
Enough! I can't take this anymore. I know what you want from me, Mr. Poirot. Very well. Here it is. She was my little Daisy, my angel, so patient. When I patched a scrape or took her temperature, that was my job. But she was so much more to me. She was a shining light in an ever-darkening world. I've tried to honor her by caring for children who have lost everything.
Thank you, Mademoiselle Olson. You too shed light on your part in this mystery.
Ela era enfermeira.
You were Daisy Armstrong's nurse. I will ask you no more questions. It is enough that you have admitted what I know to be the truth, and I understand. Let's move on. Dr. Constantine.
You suspect me? I know none of these people. I didn't know Ratchet either, and I've taken a solemn oath to help people, not murder them.
Ai, cara.
Now, really, Poirot, he has helped you get to the
Não quer dizer nada, velho. Ele não quer dizer nada disso aí, velho. Ele é médico. Médico não mata mais. Agora ser médico não pode mais matar. Tem aí o serial killer, né? O enfermeiro da noite que matou sei lá quantas pessoas sendo enfermeiro. Isso não quer dizer nada, velho. Depoimento do book.
Dr. Constantine was certainly helpful to my investigation, but that does not.
Não, se você botar ele é médico como justificativo, eu vou ficar bolado. Ah, bom. Menos mal.
This room not to have any connection with the Armstrong case. Moreover, your alibi is confirmed by
Isso não quer dizer nada, que o Hardman lá, ele... Hardman não, o Masterman lá, ele não falou nada e depois confessou que ele era do exército com o cara.
Now come to Mademoiselle Debenham and Captain Arbuthnot, whose relationship was not in doubt from the moment I inspected your room at the hotel.
You have a bloody nerve.
I do.
We're getting married.
Congratulations.
Parabéns.
I would
Palmas.
rather talk about your
Ê, eles vão se casar.
Armstrong.
Uhul. Amante, foda-se. Cozinheiro, primo, irmão, motorista, jardineiro, soldados. É, o mais sensato é que seria soldado. Ele é do exército também?
I'm right again. That happens, Captain Arbuthnot. You served in the army with John Armstrong. What I don't understand is why a man your age is still a captain.
Caralho, menosprezando o capitão, mano.
Colonel as well.
Ever fought in a war, Poirot?
It was war that first brought me to England.
Then you know what it's like. There's a shattering sound, and death, and mistakes, acting on intelligence that proved to be wrong. I sent a patrol to their death. Good men. Brave
Tá maluco, mano,
men.
exército.
Wasted. John testified on my behalf at a court-martial. I'm not a colonel. I don't deserve to be, you bloody fool. But I'm also not imprisoned. John remained my best friend until... There, you have my story. Understand now?
Archie, calm down, please.
You're right, Mary. What you see in me, I don't understand.
Oh, Archie, I see in you what John saw.
Miss Debenham, I'm sorry.
My turn, is it?
I'm afraid so. And you have caused me quite a puzzlement.
Será que é irmã do
Your
John?
connection with the Armstrong family was not obvious. Then I remembered the job you currently hold.
Eu falei que ia cortar o vídeo em 40 minutos, só que ele, esse diálogo dele falando um por um, mano, tá mais de 20 minutos aqui. Então vamos até o final, né? Fazer o quê? Não queria fazer um vídeo de 1 hora, mas o Poirot tá me obrigando aqui, velho. Professora, né?
That's the right answer.
Eu ia cortar o vídeo de 40 minutos, mas aí ia cortar o meio dos culpados aqui, velho. Aí não dá, né?
No, she was the teacher of Countess Andrény.
Sei lá, porra.
You were the teacher of Helena Andrény, whose maiden name was Helena Goldenberg before she married Count Andrény.
Yes, absolutely. Why lie to you? She was an excellent student.
E se olham.
Captain
Ai, muito
Albert-
obrigado por me elogiar. Sim, com certeza.
No, his vial found at the crime scene was a decoy. The fact that he probably killed enemies during the war does not make him a cold-blooded murderer. You had one of the strongest alibis, thanks to Mr. McQueen. But his testimony melted like a snowflake. There went your alibi. Poof. Unless you have another one. As for you, Mademoiselle Debenham.
Pô, uma professora consegue matar, velho? Eu acho que não, mano.
I do not.
Ah, ela matou, velho. Uma professora.
A close relationship with someone guilty in the case, even her motive, do not necessarily make her guilty. Yes, I remember overhearing Mademoiselle Debenham talking with the captain at Circuitry Station. She said, "Not now, not now, when it's all over." That's significant in light of what we now know, but not enough to incriminate her.
Tá bom, desculpa, Poirot. Não erro mais, ok? Peço perdão aí pelo vacilo.
Mademoiselle Olsen was the only one who could confirm your alibi. I think you know where you stand.
Very good, Mr. Poirot. Are you satisfied?
I will be soon. Now I must
Sarcástico
turn to
ele, né?
Armstrong.
Logo estarei, ok? Se acalme.
Princess Dragomirov.
Sim, porque um dos nossos era canhoto.
Princess Dragomirov, you weren't on my list of suspects at the start, given your social position.
I left my social position in a cold country.
Do you object to being addressed as princess?
I deny people the opportunity. It makes a good story to tell their friends. It also guarantees a good table in the best restaurants.
Princess, there is also, forgive me, your extreme physical fragility.
It does not stop me when I must be strong.
Olha ela, braba.
More important, though, is the fact that you're the only left-handed person on the train. And the single blow to Ratchet from a left-handed person was very, forgive me, weak. Finally, I'm afraid I know the alibi that you shared with Fräulein Schmidt is false.
You have been very thorough, sir. I hope you will permit me to say we are much alike.
I am honored. Now it is time to end with Mrs. Hubbard, or should I say, Linda Arden.
Oh meu Deus, ele descobriu.
Princess Dragomirov hadn't told me about her relationship with this famous actress, I might not have made the connection. But you are a great actress, madame. Your performance as a flighty, self-involved woman was superb. I never would have guessed something entirely different. As for what ties you to the Armstrong family, it is obvious.
Ai, pai. Tá, ela é mãe da Daisy não, madrinha da Daisy não, madrinha da Daisy é a princesa. Madrinha da Andrene?
I do
No.
not think that's the right answer.
Mãe da Sônia? Avó da Daisy, né?
That's the right answer. Mrs. Hubbard, you are the mother of Sonia Armstrong and Mrs. Andreni.
Sim.
Madame Hubbard, you really are a remarkable actress. You put so much effort into your character and into staging the murder. I saw it as a perfect mosaic, each person playing his or her allotted part, so carefully arranged that if suspicion should fall on any one person, the evidence of one or more of the others would clear the accused person and confuse the issue. Everything was meticulously planned, but you hadn't expected that Detective Locke and I would be on this train, and the avalanche would block it on the night of the murder. You had to improvise. But again, improvisation
improvisar é a maior habilidade de uma
of your
atriz.
skills as an actress. So you came up with the story that the latch on the door that communicated with Ratchet's compartment was hidden by the handbag.
I always fancied myself in comedy parts. That slip about the sponge bag was silly. Shows you should always rehearse properly. You know all about it, Mr. Poirot. You're a very wonderful man, but even you can't quite imagine what it was
Ó,
like.
até elogiou, tá querendo uma casquinha do bigode.
I was just crazy with grief. So were the servants. We decided then and there that the sentence of death that Ratchet had escaped had got to be carried out. There were 12 of us, or rather 11. Suzanne's father was over in France, of course. First we thought we'd draw lots as to who should do it, but in the end we decided on this way. It was the driver, Antonio, who suggested it. Mary worked out all the details later with Hector McQueen. It took a long time to perfect our plan. We first had to track Ratchet down. Hardman managed that in the end. Then we had to try and get Edward and Hector into his employment. Well, we managed
Puta
that.
plano, velho.
Then we had a consultation with Suzanne's father. Captain Arbuthnot was very keen on having 12 of us. He seemed to think it made it more orderly. He didn't like the stabbing idea much, but he agreed that it did solve most of our difficulties. Well, Suzanne's father was willing. Suzanne had been his only child. We knew from Hector that Ratchet would be coming back from the east sooner or later by the Orient Express. With Pierre Michel actually working on that train, the chance was too good to be missed. My daughter's husband had to know, of course, and he insisted on coming on the train with her. Hector wrangled it so that Ratchet selected the right day for traveling when Michel would be on duty. And then, at the last minute, you came. For the rest of the story, you worked out everything, Mr. Poirot. You were right about all of us. What are you going to do about it? If it must all come out, can't you lay the blame upon me, and me only? I would have stabbed that man 12 times willingly. It wasn't only that he was responsible for my daughter's death, and her child's, and that of the other child who might have been alive and happy now. It was more than that.
Não foi só a Daisy,
There
velho.
had been other children kidnapped before Daisy, and there might be others in the future. Society had condemned him. We were only carrying out the sentence, but it's unnecessary to bring all these others into it. All these good, faithful souls.
Eu escolho ou ele que escolhe?
You are a director of the company, Monsieur Book. What do you say?
Coitado, ficou na saia justa ele. É, meu irmão, segura bem aí.
The first theory you put forward was the correct one. Decidedly so. I suggest that that is the solution we offer to the police. You agree, Doctor?
Certainly, I agree. As regards the medical evidence, I think that I made one or two fantastic suggestions.
Then, having placed my solution before you, I have the honor to retire from the case.
Vai sair com uma explosão, pá, pá, pá. Ele assim, andando lentamente, assim, né? Todo o estilo do bigode e a explosão, pá, 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 saindo assim. Não. Ah, que saída sem graça, velho. Porra, não teve nenhuma musiquinha, um trompete. E é isso, acabou o jogo assim. Tá. Foi literalmente... Ah, tem mais coisa?
I'm sorry to wake you up in the middle of the night, Poirot, but it couldn't wait. There was a detail that bothered me in my preliminary autopsy of Ratchet's body. I went back to examine the body and I discovered a wound covered by another. The blow I hadn't seen was delivered by a thinner, sharper blade. So there were not 12, but 13 stab wounds.
12 stabs for 12 jurors. It doesn't work with 13 wounds. The symmetry is destroyed.
It can't be one of the culprits who stabbed him twice?
Doctor, a different knife was used. There is only one explanation. Somehow, some way, there is a 13th murderer on this train.
We must tell Book. The case is not solved.